Hello, everyone. I am Candy Martin. I am your host for today, and welcome to Ask the Expert. This is a program that's sponsored by the AK Legacy Foundation, where we reach out in our local communities and bring on board experts so that we can hear information from them, learn from them, and have an opportunity to ask questions and answers. And so today it's going to be a little different. I'm excited to see how this is going to tie together because I do love animals. As you can see, we have a handsome little dog on the screen. Or it might be a she, I don't know. Well, anyway, so we're gonna have with us today Attorney Amber Sheppard. And I know you guys say now an attorney and a dog. Okay, don't worry about it. You're not on the wrong program. Stick around. I promise you it's gonna be worth it. All right, so here at the AK Legacy Foundation, like I said, and today our topic is service animals in business and anything in between that Amber wants to share with us. And here at the AK Legacy Foundation, we are asking that you go to our website and you check us out, see what all we have going on. And I'm going to read Amber's beautiful bio in just a second, but what I want to do is give you guys our website. In case someone has to hop off, you can always go back and watch the replay. Simply go to aklegacyfoundation.org, click on Ask the Expert, and there you will be able to find Amber's video from today. And a little bit about us, what we do here, we do financial literacy, which is very, very important. And we also do business development. So if you're thinking about starting a business or if you've already started a business, we can assist you as well. And we already have videos uploaded to our YouTube channel. So take full advantage of going there and clicking and watching and learning. Right now, the disaster recovery relief, Amber and I both are in the great state of Louisiana. And so I'm sure we can tell you a little bit about what happened with Hurricane Ida. So right now we're currently collecting donations so that we can help those that were affected, not just here in our local community, but all the way up to New York. This is something that's very unprecedented. So anything that you can do to assist will be greatly appreciated so that we can get together with those that are in need of assistance. And as always, we're taking volunteers. So a lot of times people say, well, I don't have the funds to give a donation. That's fine. Like, share, and subscribe. Share our videos. Go to the YouTube channel. Turn the alert on. Leave a comment. Share it on Facebook and on Instagram. That in itself is a great plus for us. And so we appreciate that. And of course, we always welcome donations. And so let's get right into it. Introducing our guest speaker for today. Yay! Or speakers. I don't know, it's tough with you today, Amber?
She is, but she only speaks dog, so we can't understand her.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, we don't have a translator yet. So for right now, we are going to, let's get in to see what Miss Amber is up to. Amber, along with her service dog, Tub, strive to make small business and family law matters easy to understand. And I can appreciate that because I in my line of work in taxes, I feel like I'm a translator of some sort. So Amber is going to sort of be our translator today for law. And so she likes to make sure that it's easy to understand and she makes it affordable for her clients. She infuses humor into her everyday practice. Y'all, an attorney with a sense of humor. I mean, like, yeah, this is awesome. All right. And so she infuses humor into her everyday practice, but when it comes to business formation, negotiation, trademarking, operating agreements, employee manuals, SOPs, non-compete, confidentiality agreements, social media policies, I'm gonna come back and tell y'all a little bit about that, property management consulting, wills and succession. She is all business for her clients. Let me tell you, she takes no prisoners. I'm telling you, the girl is awesome. Don't let that smile fool you. Trust me, I know she knows her stuff. So Amber is also a sought after presenter on service dog laws and business compliance in the community. Did you even know that there are service dog laws? I know I didn't. Let me tell you, my knowledge was if you shot a police dog or you ran over a police dog, you're going to jail for life. That's all I knew. I didn't know anything about anything else. All I know is when you see the little unit and it says K9, don't touch. That was as far as my knowledge went. So Amber is going to make sure as business owners, as well as those of us in the community that are watching, that we are very versed upon what it is, what is a service animal, how does that incorporate into our everyday lives, and what are the laws, and just so that we can make better decisions and have an open mind about certain things. So I don't want to prolong any more time. I'm going to let Amber I'm going to turn my camera off. I'm going to get out the way, but rest assured, I'll be taking questions and answers, and then we'll come back toward the end. And so take it away, Amber.
Thank you, Candy. I am going to go ahead and share my screen. I'm still here, y'all. I'm like, are you breathing? Yes, I have to hit start.
Yeah, we're all now media experts too,
All right. There we go. Okay. So service dog laws for businesses, myself and my dog Tubbs, that's her right there. If you hadn't figured it out, trust me, you're going to see a lot of her in this presentation because like Candy said, I try to make the law in my presentations as fun as I can, right? Like lawyers aren't funny. I think I'm funny. So you see the disclaimer at the bottom, it says all jokes are our own. So don't steal my jokes. You're not going to want to, but I have to put that there. I also have to say, this is the only like legal disclaimer I'm going to put on here. All of the information that I'm providing for you guys and my interpretations are my ideas and my ideas alone. Me giving all this information doesn't create an attorney-client privilege. And this is Ask the Experts, but I just have to say for the Louisiana State Board of the Bar Association, I'm not holding myself out to be an expert as they say. So I'm just a connoisseur of service dog laws. I just have to say that so I don't get in trouble. Okay, so let's get to the good stuff. Okay, overview. This is the most words you're going to see on this PowerPoint presentation. So just bear with me. I'm just going to give you the roadmap where we're going, and then we're going to dig into it. So overview, what laws are applying? Today, we're going to talk about the federal laws that applies everywhere. That's what's going to govern service dog laws. In particular, we're going to talk about the Americans with Disabilities Act. That's a big one. That's what we're going to talk about. It's probably going to apply to most of your businesses. We're also going to talk about Fair Housing Act and HUD, FMLA, so Family Medical Leave Act, the Department of Justice, ooh, that's fancy, huh? And the Department of Labor work together depending on what title of the ADA or what law you are possibly breaking or someone brings a lawsuit on. Don't freak out on me, okay? They're going to be the ones that are enforcing this, and they're going to be the ones to fine you if you are found to be in violation of what we're going to talk about, okay? Some states also have service dog specific laws. Now, here's a real brief legal issue here for you. If there's a federal law and there's a state law and they conflict, federal law is the one that prevails, okay? So states also have some service dog laws. I'm going to talk about Louisiana just real quick, briefly, while we're going through this. Indemnity, we're going to talk about that. That means if someone sues you or your business, are you able to bring someone else in to take part of the blame and pay some of the damages, or are you not? And of course, this isn't a law, but the reason I like to do these presentations is because I promise you, if you cross the wrong person, it's going to be a public relations nightmare. So if you or your staff does something wrong, even if it's not intentional, it can blow up on social media and it's a whole can of worms there, okay? I'm going to talk about the differences between the different types of working dogs, okay? Service dog, that's our main focus today because they have the most federal laws that apply to them, and that's where you're going to get hit with fines. There are service dogs, therapy dogs, and emotional support dogs. I'm going to talk about the differences briefly, okay? We're going to talk about how do you spot a working dog? How do you spot a service dog? Are you able to? What can you ask the handler, the person that has a service dog, and what can't you ask them? Those are going to be the ways that people are going to sue you and get you in trouble, okay? So that we're going to spend some time on that. And then, of course, cool, Amber, thank you for scaring me. I see all this different stuff. How am I going to protect my business and myself? We're going to talk about some proactive measures that you guys can do as business owners or just individuals in the community, which includes this whole host of stuff that's listed here, okay? We're going to talk about it. Hold harmless, reasonable accommodation forms, specific signs, not the ones you just buy on the internet. I promise you, those are likely not ADA compliant. I've seen it a lot. Employee training manuals, standard operating procedures, certain insurance that you can and can't have, hold harmless, all these different things. That's all the fancy words, okay? All right, so why does this stuff matter to me? I'm a business owner, I'm a lawyer, I'm a service dog law author, I have a book coming out next spring on it for business owners and handlers, but I also have written legal articles for trial lawyers, and if you can, this is one of them, but look, Tubbs is on there. So Tubbs is a published author. That's a joke. Okay. But also I have a service dog. Real briefly, I have been in local businesses where people have screamed at me. It's made me cry. I've left an establishment in tears. It does not make you feel good. Sometimes I think the businesses know what they're doing. Sometimes they don't. So I like to do these presentations just so no one else has to feel the way that I feel as a handler, but also because I'm a small business owner myself and attorney, I don't want businesses who just don't know to get in trouble or to make someone feel that way or to get sued. And trust me, you don't want that happening. You don't want to be paying out on this. It's a public relations nightmare. Okay. All right. So why should it matter to you? I told you I was going to try to make this funny. Okay. Here's Tubbs in a criminal costume. Why should service dog laws matter to you? Because people can sue you. There are criminal fines, there are civil fines, and it's a public relations nightmare if you handle things wrong, whether it's towards your customers, which we'll talk about, or whether it's towards your employees or independent contractors. All right, so, all right, I'm going to run through this. This is real brief here. It's an introductory quiz. I'm going to run through these questions, okay? I'm not going to give you the answer right now. This presentation is going to give you the answer to this stuff. If you don't think you have the right answer, or maybe you want to know the correct answer, you can email me, which we have at the end of the presentation, and I'll give you more resources and the answers to these questions. Okay, so if the dog's wearing a service vest, isn't wearing a service vest, does it have protection in public? Is there a service dog registration requirement? Do service dogs have to be trained through a certified program with a minimum of 30 hours training? Are there breed restrictions? Can emotional support dog qualify as a service dog too? Does a dog barking at another person allow a business to ask the owner to take the dog out? Does the ADA, that's that federal law we're talking about, does the ADA cover service dogs in training? Can churches have a policy that don't allow service dogs on their property? Can a service dog sit on a bench at a restaurant? Can you feed the service dog in public? If someone at your business is allergic to dogs, can the service dog be asked to leave? And if a business owner is a business owner allowed to ask to see the service dog perform his or her task? Again, lots of words, but we're going to break it down in little tiny pieces, fun pieces. Okay. So what is a working dog? Is it a dog in a suit? But that's just cute. All right, so the working dog difference. I told you I was going to explain the difference between a service dog, emotional support dog, and a therapy dog. Now, service dog is kind of a misnomer there. The ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act, also applies to miniature horses. So the only service animals that you can ever have that will be covered under federal law is a service dog or a service miniature pony, like little Sebastian if you watch Parks and Rec. Okay, so a service dog requires a disabled handler, only one handler, and that dog is trained to perform 2 specific tasks at a minimum that help the person with their disability. They have access everywhere in public. There's some caveats, we're going to talk about them. And this is where the Americans with Disabilities Act applies. So that's the overarching big old shebang that applies with the most protections is a service dog. At least 2 tasks, 1 handler, you've got a disability, you go everywhere. The next kind of dog that we'll just talk about briefly is an emotional support dog. And I get it all the time. People confuse emotional support dogs with service dogs. And emotional support animals can be literally anything. You can have an emotional support crocodile if you wanted to. Hey, if it's Crocodile Dundee, that's probably what he likes to do. But an emotional support animal still has to belong to a disabled person, a disabled handler, only 1 handler, but they're not trained to perform a specific task, or if they are, they're only trained to do 1 task. Because remember, the service dog has to do at least 2 tasks specific to that person, specific to their disability. An emotional support dog only provides comfort. Like if you're upset, you pet the dog, that's an emotional support dog. If you are prone to anxiety and the dog can sense the anxiety attack coming and pause you, and that's its specially trained task, that's different. That would be a service dog. I know it's confusing, right? After people talk to lawyers, okay? Emotional support animals have limited access to public areas. The only place they're allowed to go, for lack of a better word, is with regard to housing. So the Fair Housing Act does apply to emotional support animals. We could talk about that forever. We're not. We're just focusing on service dogs today. But an emotional support animal is explicitly excluded from the ADA. And then the last type of dog that we're going to talk about is therapy dogs. These dogs don't have one specific handler. They can have one handler, they can have 5 handlers, it doesn't matter. They give comfort to a whole bunch of people, not just one person, and they have no access privileges anywhere. So they're not covered under the ADA, they're not covered under the Fair Housing Act, they're not covered anywhere, maybe state law, but everywhere else they're not allowed to just go into a restaurant or on an airplane or anything like that. One other type of dog that's not on here, it's only in Louisiana, which I think is really cool, is a facility dog. Amber, is that a dog that lives in a hospital? No, that'd be a therapy dog. In Louisiana, a facility dog is a dog that is specifically trained for 30 hours, at least 30 hours by a certain organization, that goes with a child, someone under 18 or someone over 18 with a cognitive limitation, when that person has to testify as a witness in a trial. I think that's pretty cool. All right. So what's a disability? Amber, that's you. Yeah, it is. I know. Just look at me again. So each federal law kind of defines what a disability is, and we all kind of know what a disability is. But under the ADA, they're looking at it is a condition of the body or the mind that makes it difficult for the person with the condition to do certain activities and interact with the world around them. So they can be physical disabilities. So that would be like someone, if they're using a cane, they're in a wheelchair, they're not able to see, or it can be a mental disability, which is like PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, anxiety, schizophrenia, bipolar, things like that. Disabilities can be perceived, and the perceived disabilities would be, you can kind of equate it to the physical disability. So like, see someone in a wheelchair, if someone's with a walking cane, like a seeing eye cane, like that is something that you can see and think that they probably have a disability. Documented may be more of the mental aspect of it. They can be visible and invisible. My disability is invisible. I have PTSD, depression, anxiety, and autism. Ooh, girl, but I'm still a lawyer and I'm still cute, okay? It's a joke. All right, so what's a service dog? It's a cute dog like that, right? All right, warning, don't just ignore people if they just say like, hey, my dog's a service dog. You can't just be like, cool. I mean, you can, but just saying if someone is just saying an animal is a service dog doesn't make it true. Okay, so it's not time to go party. All right, so nitty gritty here. What is not required for a service dog? And this is like debunking almost everything that people think. Service dogs do not have to be nationally registered. They do not have to have a certification. They don't have to wear a service vest. They don't have to have an identification card. They don't have to wear special tags, and they don't have to have special vaccinations. However, you normally see a dog in a service dog vest. Why? Because it makes it really easy for someone to identify them and not give the handler, not hassle the handler. I will tell you 99 out of 100 times, if you are a true service dog, they're usually in a vest, usually in public, okay? Special tags, if the only caveat is colleges or universities can ask, but not require, they can ask students or employees on campus if they have a service dog for a special tag. The only reason they are allowed to do that is because it's a voluntary registration, and it's in case there's an evacuation or something and the dog gets separated from the owner, they know who to go look for, where to go find them if they find the dog without them. Vaccinations, they just have to have all the same vaccinations as any other dog. So cool, that's a lot of stuff that's not required for a service dog. What is required for a service dog? Like we talked about, a disabled handler, whether or not you can tell they're disabled just by looking at them. The dog has to be trained to do at a minimum 2 specific tasks. Now, the task has to be something that handler needs in relation to their disability. An example, if someone is in a wheelchair and they drop something and the dog picks it up from them and hands it to them. Another example would be they have dogs that can open doors for someone. They have dogs for PTSD like mine that will enter a room before I do, scope it out, and let me know it's okay, there's no one in there, or it's safe to go in there. Another example, I'm just using myself as an example. If someone has PTSD and they are going to dissociate, the dog can sense that. It's a medical alert. The dog can sense that, and they apply deep pressure on the human so that the human doesn't dissociate, or if they do, they're able to ground and come back down to earth. So there's a wide range of different tasks that dogs can do, and there's not an exhaustive list because the federal government and just researchers in general are finding out that dogs can do so much more than we ever thought, because the old stereotype was a seeing eye dog. But the dogs, they're learning to do so much more. They can also be trained to detect if someone has low blood sugar. And if they do, just the dog sensing it isn't enough. The dog has to perform something, do something to the handler to alert them. That makes it a specific task. Just holding the dog with you, that's not a specific task. They have to actually alert the owner, whether it's tapping, whether it's a short bark, whether it is jumping on them, whatever the case may be. Also required for a service dog, the dog has to be in control at all times with the handler, under the handler, or someone that's with the handler. What does that mean? That means the dog cannot just bark uncontrollably. The dog can bark if it's alerting, or it can bark, but if the owner or the handler does not correct it and it doesn't stop, then it will be not under control. The ADA also explicitly says that a dog is under control if it's not using the bathroom in the facility. So it has to be potty trained. It has to be house trained. The dog just can't be running amok, running around. It has to be in control with the handler, staying with the handler, being able to listen to verbal or hand cues and commands with the owner. It doesn't have to be on a leash, but only if it being on a leash hinders it to do its ability. So those are the big broad strokes of what's required. Mainly being in control, doing tasks for that person with a disability. Service dogs in training are not covered under the ADA. Service dogs in training are not covered under the ADA. However, if you're in Louisiana, a Louisiana state law does cover service dogs in training, but there's a caveat there that the dog has to be actively learning, it has to be in control, it has to do all these different things that a service dog would do, but it's only protecting that individual or that handler in the state of Louisiana. It's not protecting them federally from a lawsuit or, having actions brought against them. Okay, so you see someone, they come into your business, or I was gonna say, or they come into your house, you're not gonna be asking that, but you could, okay, you could. What can you ask this person, Amber? You told me all this stuff about what they don't have to have, what they do have to have, whatever. If I see a service dog or something that I think is a service dog, what can I ask them? You have to ask them the specific way. Don't ask them any other way. 1, do you have a disability? That is it. Stop there. Stop there. Do not ask, what is your disability? Do you have a disability? If they say yes, you move on to question 2. If you say, do you have a disability? And they say, no, it's not a service dog, you can ask them to leave, okay? If the person's in a wheelchair or they have an obvious disability, you do not have to ask them this question. Because it's obvious, they're in a wheelchair, or you think they're blind or they're deaf or whatever the case may be. If it's something obvious, you do not have to ask them that. I kind of tell my clients to ask, just go through the checklist, ask. So if they've said yes, you move on to question 2. Again, there's only 2 questions you can ask in this order. Number 2, is this dog, or if it's a horse animal, is this dog trained to perform specific tasks pertaining to that disability or your disability? That's it. Don't ask them to show you the task. Don't ask them what the tasks are. That's it. Is this dog trained to perform specific tasks pertaining to that disability? If they've answered yes to these questions, you move forward assuming this dog is a service dog. What can't you ask? What's your disability? We talked about that. What are the tasks? Show me the tasks. I've had this asked of me so many times. Is it a real service dog? No, don't ask people that. I know you're thinking it. And the reason, and I get it, is because people are slapping vests on dogs and calling them service dogs, and they're not. You can usually tell if a dog isn't a service dog. It's not in control. It's yapping. We're going to talk about other things it's doing. It's eating from the table. It's sitting up on the table. You can usually tell, okay? But don't ask someone, is it a real service dog? If they have told you and answered yes to those questions, you cannot ask them, the individual, to leave your business or your organization. We're going to talk about when you can, but if you don't ask the person to leave, you ask the dog if it's out of control. We're going to talk about that. You're going to ask them to remove the dog or the animal from the premises, but you do not kick out the person. Don't. That is a lawsuit waiting to happen, and it is written all over the ADA. Don't kick out the person, kick out the dog. If you have reasons. I love that. Okay. So I'm going to run this real quick. ADA exceptions and different nuances here. So someone has a service dog. We've gone through the questions. They are in my business. They are allowed with that dog to be in your business unless allowing them in that business or giving them reasonable accommodations, we can talk about that too, would fundamentally alter the nature of your goods, services, and programs. And I am going to tell you right now, the ADA, the DOJ, the Department of Labor, they've even written about this. This is very vague, and they normally will not find that something's fundamentally altering your service or your business. But there are some that they have found. Okay, so I'm gonna go through them real quick. First, the ADA does not apply to federal agencies. Doesn't apply. So post office doesn't apply. It's federal agency. There is something else that applies to them. That's the Rehabilitation Act. But just letting you know, you can't go into a post office and say my service dog is allowed here, and they say no. They're going to get in trouble in other ways, but it's not going to be under the ADA. The ADA only applies to public businesses, not private. So Amber, what's private? That's a good question. It's vague, right? Only public businesses. Religious organizations, they're exempt from the ADA. So churches can ask you to take your dog out or to leave, and that's okay. Now, they may be in trouble for something else. There could be some other federal civil rights violations or denying you access for other reasons, but under the Americans with Disabilities Act, this does not apply to them. I will also say, this is why sometimes you see in the news, they're like, oh, this Catholic school denied my child the service dog. This is how they get around that. It's a religious organization being funded by, it's a private school being funded by a religious organization. So they've got the two double whammies there, so they don't have to allow service dogs. But I will also say, if your pastor, your deacon, your rabbi is taking you out with having a service dog, you need to find somewhere else to go. That's not cool. All right. Hospitals. Service dogs are allowed in hospitals. However, they can ask you to remove the dog if the dog would alter or harm during surgery. So if the dog's hair would get inside, an open wound or something like that. If your dog's at the hospital with you, you have to find someone else, or this is where powers of attorney come in real good, putting in caveat of what's going to happen with your dog, to take care of your dog, potty and walk it, because the nurses are not going to do it. They're not allowed to under most hospital policies. The dog can ride in the ambulance as long as it's not getting in the way with the medical life-saving and all that stuff, kind of like in the hospital. Dogs cannot ride inside grocery carts. Service dogs, you cannot go in a grocery cart. You can't do that unless tiny dog, it has to be really close to the owner to determine low blood sugar, glucose levels. That's a caveat. Dogs are allowed in restaurants, but they're not allowed to sit at the table on a bench or on a seat, and you can't feed them. Don't feed them. You can't feed them in a public business. Don't do it. They're allowed to go into gyms. They can't go inside of a pool. They can't go swimming in a public pool, but they are allowed on the deck to be able to rescue their owner or provide alerts. They can go to concerts, they can go into housing, and they can go into hotels. Cool. Service dog myths, and that's me screaming at Universal Studios. It's also like the best vacation I ever had, because it drives me nuts when people think these things, okay? For better or for worse, there are no breed restrictions. No breed restrictions for service dogs. They can be any dog. It can be a pit bull. It could be a chihuahua. It could be a chow. It could be 30 pounds. It could be, I'm gonna say 300 pounds, not 300 pounds. Any size, any breed. If your state has breed restrictions, it does not apply to service dogs. It applies to pets, but not service dogs. If a dog barks once, it can get kicked out. No, dogs are still dogs are humans. Well, apparently, I think so. Dogs are still dogs. They're not perfect. They can bark, but it's the excessive barking, and it's the barking at everyone and everything. Now, if a dog, there's a difference, and there's case law with it. If a dog is approached by another animal or somebody that's not a service dog, and they are antagonizing the dog barks, that dog's not going to be deemed out of control. Okay, if someone's provoking it. Aggressive behavior, the dog, I'm going with it, the dog can't be aggressive. It can't try to bite people. It can't try to snap at other animals. One handler can have more than one service dog at a time. It's pretty uncommon, but it can happen. So you can have only up to 2 dogs at once. Maybe one dog's trained in one task and the other's not. I don't see it very often, but that is written in there. You cannot ask for formal documentation of the service dog. Can't ask for national registration. There's not one. Can't ask for a certification of a class that they took. There's not. It's not required under the ADA. But I will say there are programs that people send their dogs to, or dogs that go through programs where you will get formal documentation. A lot of handlers will do that. Again, it's so that the dog is really, really, really well trained. Some handlers will do that and use it for insurance purposes, but it's not required. And I get a lot of people asking, like, Amber, why is it not required? Personally, it's my opinion. I think there needs to be stricter laws with regards to service dogs. I think there does need to be a national process, but the rationale for not having it from the government is if they were to put that barrier in place, it would restrict people with disabilities from being able to self-teach their dogs tasks, and it would limit them from being able to have public access. That's where they're at right now. I do think that's probably going to change in the next 10 years based on just people abusing the system. And I get this sometimes too. Someone's like, well, if someone lies about a service dog, there's no repercussions to them. That is a bold-faced lie. If they lie, that is fraud. That is fraud. If something happens and the dog bites somebody or injures a worker at your business, you can get them. There are repercussions. So if you're a business owner, employment specific nuances for the ADA in your job applications, make sure they're ADA compliant. Don't ask about disabilities on an application. Don't do it. You're going to get sued. Don't do it. If the person discloses their disability to you, or if it's obvious and they ask for a reasonable accommodation, different, okay? ADA also applies to on-the-job training. So if someone needs reasonable accommodations because of their disability and the dog is part of that, you can't deny them that as long as it's reasonable. And it also falls under the hiring process and the firing process. You can't fire someone just because they have a service dog. Okay, Louisiana's at will. There's some nuances there, but you can't just fire them just because they have a dog or a disability and ask for an accommodation. You're going to get in a whole bunch of trouble and get fined. A good news, and Katie can talk about this as an accountant. There are IRS tax credits if you're a business and you have to provide a reasonable accommodation for your employee. I'm sorry. All right, so we're almost done. Proactive measures moving forward. If you're a business owner, what do you need to have in place to make sure that you aren't going to get in trouble? Or if you do, if someone sues you or files a claim against you for whatever reason, you're able to say, hey, I did what I needed to do. I did everything under the law. I'm covered. So there is making sure that your job applications are ADA compliant. I will say 8 out of 10 of the applications that clients send to me, they're not compliant. They're terrible. I have to take a whole bunch of things out. So make sure that that is appropriate. Also have a reasonable accommodation form for your employee or a customer if they need it. You're really going to see that more with your employees. A customer is just going to ask for it verbally. Signage, have appropriate signage on your place of business. The ones you get online are not going to cover it. Just saying we welcome service dogs, not going to cover it. You need to have some more wording on there. Hold harmless agreement. That's important. That is very important. That releases you from liability if someone were to get hurt because of that dog on your property. Standard operating procedures and employee manuals, 1099 contracts, and on-the-job training. That's so important. Talk to your staff and let them know what they can and cannot ask someone. Have it written down in a policy manual. Have them sign it. Non-disclosure agreements, because you're talking about people's medical care and disabilities. That's important. And also with your customers, if someone comes in with a service dog, you don't want your staff member to run their mouth with somebody else about it. That's not cool, and that's going to get you in trouble. Employee contracts, about, that's important too. Insurance policies, I'm sure Candy's going to ask questions about it. Making sure HR, your human resources, and if you're a small business like Amber, that's me, cool. Make sure you're up to date on all the laws. We didn't go over all of it because it's a lot. The timer. And making sure that you're training your HR and your staff appropriately, what to ask, what not to ask, what are they going to do if this happens? What should they do? Should they call the manager? Should they, basically a hierarchy of how they handle customers with disabilities? And also you as a business owner standpoint, how are you going to protect yourself with employees or independent contractors that are coming to you and asking for these accommodations, or just showing up with the dog and not asking at all? How can you cover yourself to make sure that you're protected in the long run? All of these things and more are things that I offer. I do a lot of on-the-job training, whether it's for the staff or whether it's for management and HR. And I know you're like, Amber, you talked a lot. Don't give me a side eye, okay? Like Tubbs here, okay? It's a lot of information. I could talk forever, but I'm not. Your main things to take away from this: if you see someone with what appears to be a service dog, do you have a disability? Is this dog trained to perform specific tasks pertaining to that disability? The end. You can ask them to leave. The dog is acting wild, out of control, peeing all over the place, or barking at other people and not under control. All right, this is my little card here. This is what I do. If you need anything, call or text or email. Be happy to help you guys, but I'm gonna stop sharing my screen so Candy can pop back in.
All right, Amber, that was awesome. I really, truly appreciate all the information that you shared with us on today. So I have a slew of questions, but I'm not gonna ask them all. Amber did give her information, and if you're watching the replay, you can definitely go back, fast forward, rewind, write stuff down, and watch it again, share it. It was a lot of useful information, things I didn't even know. And it's very true, it is a tax deduction in there. So hey, you got any questions about that? I'm your girl who can help you with that. All right, so one of the questions that I have, and they're not in any particular order, whether it's important or not, it's just a question. If a person has a service dog and they get hired on a job, do the other employees, and I don't know if you answered this or not, if just kind of clarify, do the other employees need to be trained on how to handle the dog because it is now in a working environment with others?
Yes. You need to, it would benefit you as a business owner to train the employees on what they can and can't do around the dog, because if you don't and they harm the dog, that's like harming the person. So kind of like what you said about canines earlier, police dogs, and the employee could bring a lawsuit against you also. So yes, if someone's hired on, you can do on the job training or just in an email, or whatever you need to do to make sure that everybody on the premises knows what's happening. But it's going to be under the control of that person with the dog to control that dog.
Okay. All right. Now I think this next question may have been from an avid animal lover or a kid. It says, can service animals have fun too? So I guess they mean like, how we go to work, we clock out and we have fun. So do the service animals get to have any time of relaxation or fun?
Yes, they do. And I'm glad you asked that. I actually presented to a little Montessori school before, and the kids asked me almost verbatim that question. So if the dog isn't wearing, like, for example, if Tubbs isn't wearing her vest, she's not working. So if I take her places and, you know, I take off her vest, she knows that I can play, I can be a normal dog. I don't have to be as behaved, I guess, but she's pretty behaved. But yeah, so the service dogs can have fun. Just if a dog's wearing a vest and they're working, don't try to kiss them and pet them. And don't distract them. I forgot to mention that's important, but I figured most people knew that. My bad.
So I heard you mention about dogs in restaurants. So, and we all know there's always that one particular person who just doesn't follow the rules. So as you mentioned earlier, you stated that they can go in, but they can't sit at the actual table and they can't actually eat off the plate. Now,
Mhm.
I have seen situations where people have abused the privilege of having a service dog in a public restaurant, and they've done that. And me, myself, I would just say, well, it's a service dog, you know, I just thought that it was okay. So in a lot of the things you taught us is what we can and can't do or things that we should do. What happens if we see certain behavior that is against policy, or if a handler is mistreating a service dog?
That's a good question. So if you are seeing a handler mistreat the dog, that's a big no. That goes along animal cruelty. You can report them to your local authorities, which would be the police in Louisiana. It's a police department because we have animal abuse laws, and then also the animal services. If you're a restaurant owner and the dog can be at the table but on the floor. They can't be sitting on the bench unless, you know, there's glucose levels or a reason. What I recommend to my clients is if you see that and it's bothering the patrons around them, go up and say, excuse me, it's our policy in accordance with the ADA, the dog can't be on the bench. Is the dog on the bench for, you know, to perform a task for your disability? I would go through those questions. First up, hey ma'am, do you have a disability? Yes. Is this dog trained to do, you know, the task for you? Yes. Does it need to be on the bench to perform that task? If they say yes, leave it alone. If they say no, ask them to put the dog on the floor.
Okay, all right. Earlier you stated about the Fair Housing Act. So I kind of want to go back to that for a minute, because I guess service dog, therapy dog, facility dog, you know, service dog, all those different categories. So I know I got some property managers saying, look, I need to find out which category is this dog in, because they have a no pet policy. So where there are no pet policy or hotels, but more so into where people actually live, the residents.
Right.
And for small business owners that may own 1 or 2 properties and they have a no pet policy, and someone says, well, I have an emotional support dog. What is, kind of go over that a little bit for me, because I know they're
Yeah.
gonna be like grabbing at it.
So the for Fair Housing Act, you can, it's a little different. You can ask for documentation that dog is needed, and it is an emotional support dog or it's a service dog, whatever the case may be. I see it more with emotional support dogs. People trying to, I hate to say pull one over, but honestly, it is what it is. They don't want to pay a pet deposit. I've seen people asking on the internet all the time, or they call me, I don't want to pay my pet deposit. How do I make a dog an emotional support dog? No, that's not how it works. But a property manager or a landlord is able to ask for a letter from their physician, and it has to be dated within the last year. So it can't be a 6-year-old letter. It has to be an active disability that they need this dog for. If they have a real disability that they need this animal for, it should be documented, and they shouldn't have any problem with it. I carry mine around all the time. No one ever needs it, but I'm paranoid, so I have it.
Right. And could they still require a pet deposit just like they
No.
would? Okay. So so they can have the paperwork, but they still would have to, if they don't, it depends on how it's written up, what you just said. Because some people were thinking that they still had to pay the pet deposit. Some landlords or property managers still thought that they could ask for the pet deposit. I'm like, I don't know if it's considered a pet. If it's a service dog, I mean, you know, not my lane.
They're
Okay.
not considered pets under that, only with housing.
Okay, cool.
And
So great clarity. All right, one last question and then we'll kind of wrap it up. Let me see, I think I asked all of them, wait, oh no, okay. Okay, so here was my last question, which I haven't ever had an experience of it personally, but someone asked the question. And this is insurance purposes. We are speaking to business owners in a place of business. If a service dog misconduct, or if something happens and a person get injured in their place, who's responsible for the injury?
That's a really good question. So I recommend my clients, and this is coming, I'm going to do two separate answers. This is coming from if you're a business and you have someone that has a service dog that is employed by you, get a certificate of insurance from the handler's insurance company that puts the company and yourself as another insured on their policy, and do the same for the employee. That way the insurance will cover it. There's some indemnity issues. It's a legal issue. Y'all could go back and forth between the handler and the company. But if it's a customer that gets hurt and they come in and it's not, the service dog has nothing to do with the business, they're just on the premises, the customer is going to go after, or they should go after, that service handler. They'll probably try to sue the company as well for premise liability. But when I talked about indemnification, if they didn't do anything wrong, if they had the appropriate signs, the appropriate everything, if the dog was acting crazy and they didn't ask it to leave, different scenario. That's why it's really important for business owners to know what's up. But if they did everything right and this customer has sued them, they can ask the handler to indemnify them and release them from all liability. So that's why it's important for having insurance, and also for business owners to teach their staff to know what to do, because if a dog's acting a fool and you're not doing anything about it as the business owner or as the company, that's not going to be considered reasonable and you're going to get hit.
Right. So this is some great information. And so one of the things I do want to, I normally say at the beginning, I think Amber did too, but I want to put this disclaimer out there: before you make any changes or take on any responsibilities, make sure that you reach out to your insurance company, your attorney, and your financial advisor. All those things work hand in hand. Amber and I are here, we're offering our services to you, of course, and we would also like to recommend that you seek any of our AK Legacy Foundation partners. And so we just want to make sure that you get the right information. And this is more so in a general sense. So if you have a specific case, you would want to reach out to Amber or reach out to your attorney so that you can get the exact answer for your particular situation. And so I just wanted to make sure that I reiterate that, because I know you said it at the beginning, but we're going to say it again. All right. And so one last thing we're going to do, I'm going to share my screen real quick, guys. Y'all don't mind, let me share my screen. If you would like to, Amber, did you give them your contact information?
It was on my last slide.
Okay, all right. So if you want to reach out to Amber, great. If not, you can always reach out to us and then we can reach out to Amber. They just give us an excuse to call her. So, like I said earlier, join us. We are currently working on our disaster recovery relief effort. This is our website, aklegacyfoundation.org. We have a lot of great events coming up as well. Amber and I are both, we're gonna be at the AK Legacy Foundation annual conference and gala in Dallas, Texas. That will be October 15th, 16th, and 17th. We would love to see you there. There's more information about it on our website. And so that is going to conclude our session for today. I truly want to thank Ms. Amber and Tub for taking time out of their busy schedule to just come and share some information with us. And I hope that it has been helpful to you all. Remember, like, share, subscribe, tell someone about it. Everybody knows somebody that loves animals. So there's somebody that you can share this video with. I have a couple people in my mind right now. As soon as we get done, I'm going to be sharing it. I have a niece that is an animal lover, and she is going to just love this video. And you never know, who doesn't know what. And so we shouldn't just assume. So this is great, Amber. I learned a lot. I'm like, all right. So I'm going to be reaching out to some of my clients, especially those that have rental property. I want to make sure that they're doing the right thing and that they're doing it the right way. Because just like Amber, I believe that most people want to do right. We just need to know what that is. Our interpretation of what is right and the interpretation of law can sometimes be different. So thank you so much, Amber, for sharing with us. Any final words you want to share with us before we conclude the meeting for today?
I just want to thank y'all for listening. I know that stuff is super boring, but thank y'all. And just, if you see a service dog, just assume that they, they're just doing their job, just like we're doing our job. They're just waiting to take that vest off and eat a little treat. But please do not ask someone what their disability is. You're going to get in trouble. Don't do it.
Hey, that's funny. She said they're waiting to take their vest off so they can get a little treat. That's almost like us too, right? We're waiting to I can't wait to get home so I can take me. Okay, anyway. All right, so talk to you later, Amber. Thank you so much for joining us. And you all have a great rest of your day. Thank you. Bye-bye.